Hello, my name is Wes Booker. I'm the drum major of the Boston Crusaders. Today I'm going to be teaching you how I make tonal energy presets with music and scores. Alright, here we are in tonal energy. So currently we're in the Metronome tab and we're going to go through the processes to make tonal energy presets for your marching show. Alright, so here we are in tonal energy. This is the Metronome tab. We're going to go through how to make presets to fit your music score for either a piece of music or a marching show or whatever's in between. So to make sure we're on the right page, we got to start on the advanced metronomes tile. All right, here we are in the tonal energy menu. We're on the metronome tab. Today we're going to run through how to make presets for your music. So first things first, we got to make sure we're in this advanced metronome tab. You may see a version that looks like this, which is the simple metronome. We don't want this because then we're not able to make presets or make advanced choices to the metronome. Click on this little plus button in the left-hand corner, and we're going to be in our advanced metronome menu. So a quick review of how to use this menu. You've got meter, you can choose for whatever you want. You have subdivision, also choose whatever you want there. And then you have this button here. This is going to equivalent to the meter, but we want to keep it on purple. That's going to be the loudest volume. It's going to be accented as like down here. If it's blue, it's going to be unaccented. It sounds like this. And if it's purple with the accent on, it's going to sound like this. For a marching band show or something similar, we're going to keep it on this bright purple so that you can hear it at all different volumes that the members are playing at. And then a couple other interface things to start. This is the tempo, obviously. This is the start button. And then this is the count in button right here with the 1, 2, 3, 4. If we click this on, it's going to be purple and it's going to give us an 8 count in. As you can see there, if we hold down on it, it'll give us this little menu. We're going to make sure that we have counting clicked on, beats selected, not bars because that's measures. If we want an 8 count in, we're going to have 8 beats. If we want 4, then we have 4. I'm going to keep it at 8 because that's pretty much what everybody uses. It's going to auto give you, I think, a voice count. So you want to make sure all of these are turned to gray. That way there is no voice that goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Obviously no one wants to hear that whenever we're in a marching band rehearsal or any sort of rehearsal with your peers. So make sure that those are all gray, and then keep the metronome beats down here on blue. That way it's just a calm sounding 8 counts like you heard previously. All right, so the last couple of things on this interface you want to make sure of. Whenever we do a preset or a show and you're running a segment, you want to have these square to square on with the loop on. This loop button you'll see later, but whenever we have multiple presets, it's going to basically, once it ends the preset, it'll start back at the beginning, and if it's off, it'll just stop at the very end. So last thing, we're going to look at the sounds down here. I have the sound set to Doctor. This is going to be most useful for marching band rehearsals and rehearsals outside. That way it's the loudest possible sound you can get. It's supposed to be similar to a Doctor beat. Obviously, if you're practicing on your own time with a click track, you can use whatever else sound that you want. There's a lot of drums with fun stuff there, but we're going to stick to the Doctor sound. And then let's get into the preset making. It's going to be this 4-line button right here. You're going to click on it and then click on all preset groups. Once we get to all preset groups, this is a list of things that I've done in the past. This is like my senior year of high school show, and then this is my first year of drum corps. But for our purposes, we're going to be doing a silent command show preset. This is basically going to be how to make your own preset depending on a score that you're given. And so let me pull up the score right here. Split screen view. Special credit to Chasen Young for writing this score and arranging it for us. He was the former Blue Devils drum major in 2019, and he's been gracious enough to let us use this score. So, as you can see, we start at letter A. So you're going to have a very basic menu whenever you first load in. This is going to be it's going to have no name, it's going to have no tempo or anything like that. So we're going to make sure we click on this little switch to use tempo. It already has it at 130, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But we're going to make sure we click fix tempo. That way it doesn't change while we're on the menu, right? So I'm going to name this letter A for the start of the piece. It says blossoming 130 to the dotted quarter note. It says that we're in 12/8. But the way that I like to do it in tonal energy so that we get the loudest possible output is keeping it all in 1/4 with that accent on. And so I'm going to have it in 1/4 with quarter note subdivision. That way we're going to basically treat this 12/8 like a 4/4 since it is dotted quarters for the beat. And we have, as you can count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars of 4/4 before the first tempo change. So whenever we're making a preset, we want to make it basically sectioned for all the tempo changes or whenever the letter chunk changes. So whichever comes first, basically. In our cases, the tempo change comes first. As we can see, we have an HL here. And so we're going to take 8 bars of 4/4. You can do the multiplication yourself. It comes out to 32. And that's going to be, it's going to say bars, but since we're in 1/4, that's going to be counts. And so I treat these in like this number like counts, and this is just the constant that we have. And so fixed 130 for 32 counts, and that's going to be all the way up until the HL. To make another section of this preset, we're going to click the little plus button down here. It's going to copy exactly what we had for letter A, and that way we can adjust it the way that we want. So for this, I'm going to name it HL with a little dot start there. And then we're going to, instead of using a fixed tempo, we're going to use a gradual tempo. And for HLs and Rits, they're all kind of the same thing. You choose the start tempo right here, which in our case is 130. And then you find the end tempo, which up here is 150. So we're going to click end tempo 150. And so for our HL, we have it over a span of 3 measures. A 4/4, a 3/4, and another 4/4. So if you want to add those up, that ends up being 11 total counts. And so we're going to set bars, aka counts, to 11. And then this is automatically going to transition in 1 beat. So we want to make sure that we change this 11 total counts to take that gradual HL. So there is another way you can do this if you want to pace it slightly differently. You can click from end and then maybe make it shorter if you want 6 counts. So that way it like doesn't HL at all for these first 4 and a couple counts. I guess it would be 5 counts if we have 11. And then in the last 6 counts, it would HL. For our purposes, we don't want that. We want it to be from the start. As soon as we hit this preset selection, we're going to have the HL. And so that gradual one is what we want. And then as you can see, this brings us to letter B. So I'm going to add another one and name it letter B. And so in this section, we have a new tempo. We're at 150 immersive, it says. And so we're going to click fixed again as we're at this new tempo that it HL'd to. And now we're going to do some more counting to make sure that we have the right amount of counts before the next tempo change. As you can see in the score, we have 4 measures right here, and then it actually keeps going. There's a lot of time signature changes, but there aren't any tempo changes until this just huge moment. And so we're going to count out these measures and make sure that we've got the right amount to end up to the next tempo change. And so I'm going to count on my own. We've got 4 measures of 4/4. That's going to be 16 counts right there. Plus 6 and 2, which is 8. And then you've got plus another 8 and 8, which is 16. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 measures of 4/4, which is 20 more counts. And then 6 counts before that tempo change. And so if you did the math like I did, you'll end up getting 66 total counts. And so I'm going to change that in our little bars section here. We're ending up with 66 total counts, still at the 1/4 with the quarter note subdivision. That way it stays the same all the way until we get to this tempo change. And since this is not a gradual tempo change right here, it's just right on it, we're going to change. I'm not going to do anything else to the gradual or relative tempo. We're just going to keep it fixed right until that moment. I'm going to add another section, and we're going to name this one Just Huge, like it says in the music. And this section, as you can see here, is at 180 BPM to the quarter note. And so I'm going to make this fixed tempo 180. Awesome. And so this section lasts for a little bit before we get to letter C, which is where we're going to stop for today. As you can see, it's a very, very strict tempo change. There is no accel or rit or anything like that. So right at 180, that way it flows straight into the next tempo is what we're going to have. Let's just say we're going to stop at letter C. If we were to use that as the end of the piece, let's count how many measures we've got. We got 4 measures of 4/4 right there, and then 1 measure of 8/4. So that would be 4 times 4, because, sorry, I just did 4 plus 4 in my calculator. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 8 is 24. So that gets us to letter C. We're going to put 24 in this little subsection here, and that will get us to letter C. There is more to the score that we may cover in a later video, but this is just an example score that we're using to hit on all of the tempo changes and stuff that you can use in a preset. I'm just going to do another example of what a rit would do in a piece of music. Let's say we have an 8-count rit that we add at the very end of the Just Huge section. I'm going to add that in here. Because we already did an accel, it's basically the same thing. Let's go 8 counts here, click gradual tempo, and let's say we have it from the start tempo at 180, we're going to go all the way down to 140. And in this, we want to have it at an 8-count rit, as we have marked up here. Transition beats is going to be 8, and that's all as it should be. You want to make sure, also as a double checking thing, when you're doing these presets, that your metronome is exactly what you want kind of sound. So right now, all of these should be on the purple sound, which is what I had in that main menu of the accented sound. This is going to give you the loudest possible output. If it is on the blue sound, this is going to be an unaccented beat, and we don't want that because then it might not cut through the ensemble. We're going to keep it on purple. If it's on the gray, that means it's not going to sound at all, which is the opposite of what we want. So we're going to keep this on with random beat silencing off, because that'll just, do what it says, random beat silence, which is not what we want. All right, so that is the end of the summary for our silent command little preset for the show example right here. If we go back to the main menu, it should have selected the silent command show for us. And so if we actually want to put this into use, let's say we want to start at letter A. We're going to click this square to square. That way it goes from place to place. And then select letter A, as it already did for me. So we've got our count in clicked. It's ready to go. If we press the play button, it's going to give us an 8-count count in to letter A. And then it'll flow through. I'm going to let it go for a little bit. But at this tempo, it'll flow through the entire preset as it goes without stopping for any reason. If you don't have these squares selected, it will just stop and go only on the one you select. So watch here for a second as it accels to letter B at the new tempo. And now we're at 150. And so you see how that accel spent all those 11 counts to get to letter B at this new tempo. And then B will go for a very long time until Just Huge, which it'll switch right to 180. Whenever I click on it, bam, 180, as you can see. So that is what we have for today. It's a pretty simple thing once you get the hang of it. You just got to practice a lot. The way that I do it includes a lot of math, as you can see. It gets more complex whenever you have a lot of different, time signatures throughout the piece. But this is a very brief introduction on how to make presets. Hopefully this is helpful.